I first found out about the 15 penguins in the basement of Sea Life London Aquarium without fresh air or daylight in about March 2024. I was alerted first by the campaign group Freedom for Animals, and obviously the conditions sounded awful, so I wrote a story about it. The thing I didn't expect is that the next day I was threatened with legal action because I called the penguins captive, and I included a petition link. I then strolled across, just from my office, I strolled across Westminster Bridge to the aquarium, and what I saw shocked me. Those penguins were in a really dingy basement, and one was just staring at a mural of a world it would never know, and that was absolutely heartbreaking. So with that legal threat in my inbox, I went back to my desk, I contacted the aquarium, and I said, do you now have a response on this legal threat? And it became an express campaign. After a few years, Fergal Sharkey, Chris Packer, Megan McCubbin staged a 300-person mass protest outside the aquarium, and that got coverage everywhere. We then got 75 MPs on board. They signed a letter to the then Environment Secretary Emma Reynolds. That also got picked up from across the globe, and at that point the aquarium just knew they had to do something. And finally, just a few months ago, they announced that they were going to end breeding of Gentoo penguins at all their UK facilities, which is a huge one. They're also going to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds giving the animals a brand new enclosure with daylight. So huge one for the penguins. There was so much public fury over the state that those animals were in. I think eventually Merlin Entertainments, which owns London Aquarium, realised that no change was not an option, and that's something they said themselves. I think fury was coming at them from all angles, from the national press, international press, from social media, from visitors, and I think they just knew that if they wanted to win favour with the public again, they would have to do something about those penguins. So I think ultimately it was just the public rallying together for an important cause. It's fascinating because I wear two hats at the Daily Express, so I'm always looking to merge politics and the environment, and they so often do anyways. But I think politics takes so much from the news agenda lately. Political stories so often will be on the front of newspapers or high up on the websites. So if you can find an environment story and make it political in this climate, you're more likely for it to get a better showing, which I think is important, because if you care about the environment, you don't want it to end up at the back of a newspaper. If you can bring in policy, bring in MPs and make it political, you have a much higher chance of getting it some more prominent coverage, which I think is really important. And policy is inextricably linked to our value system and how we operate in society. And ultimately, I think everything comes back to politics and policy. So if you can influence that on the environmental side, then that can't be a bad thing.